Hello everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast, as part of a quantum edition. This audio podcast as part of a Vortux Gauntlet. This audio podcast as part of a Lobostic sequence, and this audio podcast as part of a Storm Robotics production. In this audio podcast, a sort of look at a look at a look at or a research poster presentation that have been put forward for the excellence in pediatrics in 2014. This works where this works this this research poster presentation was a collaborative effort. And what this works looks at the importance of raising chronic kidney disease or CKD awareness for young people and parents, and looking at how using social media can influence care and shared decision making. And poster presentation, this research poster presentation was or had been collaborative in between wherein there was a link, a sort of collaborative effort between the RPSG the RPSG social media platform and a and an academic based at an academic institution in the United Kingdom. The In this audio podcast, in this audio podcast, as part of this quantum edition, I sort of look at this works through highlighting the through highlighting some specific aspects around this works. So to begin with, some aims around this works. So the using or utilizing the RPSG example, the renal patient support group example, the aims of this works at the time. So again, to inform this works was a research poster presentation put forward for the Excellence in Pediatrics, or EIP, in 2014, and it was to highlight the importance of raising awareness of CKD, or chronic kidney disease, for young people and parents and guardians. And then secondly, to inform how social media helps can help adapt sort of positive coping strategies, and three, to also highlight how using social media can influence care and shared decision making. The research poster presentation, as at least as part of the aims, as far as the aims are concerned, there had been a claim as part of this works, and the claim here is that future physicians and clinicians in amongst the specialty referred to as pediatric nephrology, those who are specialists in amongst kidney care, kidney care for those young people who suffer with varying forms of chronic kidney disease, or CKD, and thus future clinicians in amongst the specialty are unable to sort of best practice unless they get more involved in patient-led initiatives, and better appreciate how young people with CKD and the parents use and utilize the internet and social media as an effective learning resource. The background, or part of the background to this works, was where it had been documented that between 80 and 90% of all care for young people with long-standing conditions is undertaken by patients themselves and their families, uh, um, um, according to sort of documented evidence from the Department of Health in around 2012. most young people living with chronic illnesses such as CKD spend a vast majority of life with parents and guardians looking after them, and under the direct care of a clinical under the direct care of a clinical team. And so coping strategies at the same time are therefore fundamental to dealing with chronic health problems. However, there are few investigations of coping amongst people living with advanced CKD, advanced chronic kidney disease. And just to refer to some of the terminologies in regard to chronic kidney disease classification and severity. Advanced CKD, although is not within literature in context of a specific form of severity and classification of chronic kidney disease. It can be sort of loosely referred to, can be loosely referred to as CKD, chronic kidney disease stage 4, and stage 4 CKD stage 4 and 5 being more severe end of chronic kidney disease. And so coping strategies are therefore fundamental to dealing with chronic health problems. However, there are few investigations of coping and around coping among living people living amongst those living with CKD, living with advanced forms of CKD, or the advanced stage or severity of CKD, and especially amongst younger people. And there has been some evidence, sort of going back as far as the early 1980s. Works by Vickery and team in 1983 had informed some of the sort of underpinnings in this. Uh, and at the same time, sort of in some synchronicity, social media usage, sort of in more sort of recent years, or recent times, has grown exponentially, and where, for example, social media sites such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and others now representing perhaps 20% or 20% or more of time online, and much more in amongst, at least where literature, as far as literature is concerned, in amongst those of the younger population. Um, Works by Nissan Wire from 2013 has had evidenced some works in around the use of social media amongst different forms of different sort of conditions, or different conditions, and also linked to different populations. Not surprisingly, patients and carers seek peer-to-peer support through social media, which offers advantages over standard forms of interaction and education, with sort of broader accessibility, immediacy, and offers an opportunity for patient education, for education or patient education, where as far as particular and specific illnesses and conditions are concerned. And much like works by Nissenwar from 2013, Tamimi in 2012 had documented some works in around this. The pediatric nephrologists, again, those specialists who support sort of aspects of healthcare, health and clinical practices amongst the pediatrics and young population, also need to ensure they are providing sort of the best care, with the understanding of what resources are available to the patients and the very patients that are under their care or under their practices. Now, this poster presentation has a focus on a little bit around sort of the specifics, if you like, around the pediatric nephrology specialty and looking at evidence-based practices. But then we'll delve into sort of a bit more detail in regard to looking at the internet. Looking at aspects around the internet and social media, and also some particular literature around young people and parents and guardians. So, in regard to the pediatric nephrology specialty, then, so pediatric nephrology tends to bring scope to collaborate amongst various organ specialties, platforms of disease states, and research in clinical and laboratory medicine, and with the intention of more science translating into mainstream clinical practices. And so, thus, in appreciating the care for young people, with chronic kidney disease (CKD), pediatric nephrology, like and perhaps unlike many other pediatric specialties, has long implemented some aspects of clinical science as a clinical science ethos, and thus conventionally has maintained an academic stance, thus translating sort of those, thus linking those sort of those sort of aspects in line to bench to bedside practices, so thus ensuring that pediatrics that suffer with varying forms of CKD, for example, for example, getting sort of the most up to date up to date and specific sort of treatments and aspects of healthcare or sort of care plans, where care plans are concerned, where care plans are etc. are concerned in sort of and from an evidence perspective. And so, whilst nephrology is specific at the same time in its own right, pediatric nephrology, pediatric nephrology specifically becomes more intricate because of physicians sort of because of physicians sort of onus on caring for infants and adolescents with varying forms of renal disease, and the works sort of going back to the mid 2000s, around 2005, works by one author and one author and physician, Chesney has informs the future will be the focus on pediatric nephrology training. And now sort of delving into sort of the evidence, some aspects around evidence-based practices. So traditionally, specialists tend to have or present a sort of a sense of aptitude and distinctions that potentially illuminate the academic integrity within them. But now at the same time, this is not always the case. So one of the questions within this poster presentation, one of the questions is, so what issues are pediatric nephrologists facing sort of today, and bearing in mind this was a research poster presentation that was put forward for excellence in pediatrics in around 2014. Put forward for the excellence in pediatrics in 2014. This poster presentation in context of of answering at least some aspects of this question still hold some sense of veracity and validity here. So the question again, so what issues are pediatric nephrologists facing today? So the pediatric consultant needs to comprehend sort of an essence of clinical science, as part of as per said in context as part of the background. Some aspects of laboratory practices, clinical epidemiology, but also aspects around patient-led initiatives, and medical statistics. And medical statistics to name a few. So in order to number one, to thrive and succeed in within the specialty, and number two, to place them more as sort of as holistic academic physicians, or holistic clinical scientists. Accordingly, having an overall sort of understanding of where to bridge gaps in healthcare will also allow nephrologists to better comprehend sort of translational science, and especially with regard to endeavors in bettering, for example, dialysis regimes, best immunosuppression protocols for young people, and patient-led initiatives, transplantation and allograft prognoses, and genetic sort of renal and genetic renal diseases. Uh, at the same time, epidemiology and statistics are subject areas becoming or have become increasingly important in everyday nephrology, in everyday nephrology, and works going back to around the same same time as Chesney from 2005. Works by Warady and team from 2007 also inform of CKD in young people and in context of a global perspective, where the authors informs sort of and where this is a sort of where the authors inform additional efforts to define to define epidemiology of pediatric CKD, or chronic kidney disease, worldwide, are unnecessary if a better understanding of the full extent of the problem and areas for study and the potential impact of intervention is desired. And so clinicians need to know clinicians need to know how to gain sort of broader access to, for example, journals and specific software that will enable them to attain knowledge at their fingertips, and software that holds software that holds sets of genetic information, and retrieving this data will become important for analysis of potentially rare renal anomalies, and in appreciating the concepts, those concepts linked to sort of varying forms of sort of genetic based renal renal genetic based renal diseases, and concepts such as single nucleotide polymorphisms, or SNPs, as documented by works authored by Wahib and team in 2014. Now, going into sort of the sort of a sort of broad aspects of this research poster presentation, but also linking in some of the some of the some of the background some of the background as per mentioned, and we're in this poster presentation now looks and delves into some of the aspects around coping with chronic illness. It was works by Friedenberg, who observes that stress and coping are arguably the most sort of widely researched area of psychology and coping. Area of psychology. Coping is about the way people manage often stressful life conditions, and works by Friedenberg in 2008 is substantiated by works by Lazarus in 2006. Coping can be described as a strategy, but also where has been where as far as part of evidence, it works that has been evidence. Coping can and is also described as a function of continuous appraisal and reappraisals. Lazarus and Folkman, who had documented evidence, had evidence some of the specifics are in around continuous appraisal and reappraisal, and then in around the 1980s. Uh, Subsequently, coping is a precursor to psychological growth and lessening anxiety, according to Shantz in 1975. In 1975, and Friedenberg also had informed in 2008 and within the literature in this context that coping specifically to rate in relation or to in regard to young people, stating that coping represents sort of thoughts, feelings, and actions that an individual uses to deal with problematic situations encountered in everyday life and in particular circumstances. And then and within this, and as part of the research poster presentation, the authored works by Lewis and team in 2010 inform that a present theoretical framework to explain information exchange in the healthcare context, specifically sorry that when Lewis and team in 2010 had presented a theoretical framework to explain information exchange in the healthcare context, specifically with young people, and the works by Lewis and team in 2010 had identified had informed that both positive and negative influences of information and knowledge exchange in clinical contexts during the transition years. So, where transition years where pediatrics and young people go from pediatric renal services into adult nephrology services. So the ages between 13 and 19, for example, between 13 and 19. And so often where the information support from broader mechanisms, often where the information support where the information support and the exchange where the sorry often where the information and support and exchanges in the clinical context are negative or can be negative, or are lacking in some way, young people seek other support, other support from broader support mechanisms in amongst social network, according to works by Lewis and team in 2010, but also in work substantiated by Kefford and team in 2005. Increasingly, this extends beyond friends and family and extends to social media, or has extended to social media and the internet. It was works works by works by Kefford and team in 2005 reinforce the need for trustworthy but accessible information for young people. And Kefford and the team in 2005 also identified a desire within young people for a sort of a whole lifestyle approach to health, and therefore it is not surprising to find that young people exploit a range of information sources accessed in different ways, including using technology to fulfill information requirements. And works by Cufford and team in 2005 are substantiated by Skinner and team in 2003, Frank and team in 2008, and Ekberg in 2010. So now going on into looking at the sort of use of the internet and in context on social media as part of this research poster presentation. So social media sites facilitate maintaining sort of the maintaining the sort of social media sites facilitate maintaining relationships with contacts from one person's personal and professional lives. Twitter, for example, is or has been more popular and allows people to tweet or put information in short updates on aspects in aspects of practices, and using social media forms are now and have been paving the way in which people interact and communicate more generally. Works by Fox and Purcell in 2010 highlight or inform more intricately, but also found where these authors found that two online activities stood out amongst internet users living with chronic disease, or with chronic disease, or chronic conditions, a chronic condition, or chronic disease or chronic conditions. For example, blogging and participating in online discussion that in participating in online discussion. And the authors inform that these resources allow an internet user to dive deeply into a health topic, using the internet as a communication tool, not simply an information sort of not simply as an information sort of machine. Um, Using technology has certainly advanced, and there have been a dramatic transformation in how young people communicate, gather resources, and share information through electronic media. Gathering information in this way can also form a helpful coping strategy, and again, sort of according to Tamimi in 2012 and Nizawa in 2013. Now delving into sort of the into sort of aspects of influence of social media in context of the renal patient support group, or the RPSG perspective. So the RPSG has been a non-funded Facebook support group, which had primarily been sort of patient carer sort of led initiative, established in 2000 in around 2009 in around 2009 in around the southwest in the southwest region of the United Kingdom. So unlike other sort of nephrology sort of Facebook groups, the RPSG is or has also been a sort of a research active or proactive, and there are articles informing of how support groups help empower young people, parents, and guardians, and works have been evidenced by varying sort of researchers, investigators. The research poster presentations sort of has some of the authors within the works, and as part of this audio podcast, there will be a list of the references, some of the references that are tied into this particular research poster presentation. The research poster presentation also informs that the RPSG at the time. So bear in mind that this works was from around 2014. The RPSG had 11 members who formed the administrative and sort of research team within where there was representation from the UK, Europe, Australia, and United States, who had been responsible for moderating the social media for moderating the social media platform. At the time of this research presentation, there had been around 5,500 members globally supporting each other with members, service users, and service providers, providing insight specifically where service users had shared experiences, and also where shared experiences from service users had led into or linked to shared decision, or has helped inform shared decision making in context of particular and specific aspects of clinical, or sort of semi-clinical, or sort of medical semi-clinical or semi-medical sort of decisions around healthcare. So since the RPSG had primarily been a Facebook platform group or social media platform, this had lent itself well to raising sort of chronic kidney disease awareness, and allowing sort of members, service users, and service providers, where the social media platform offers had offered sort of had offered offers opportunities to those to share experiences and also share real life stories. Now, in context on context of young people and parents and guardians, and bear in mind the RPSG, or the Renal Patient Support Group, um, the RPSG social media platform specifically, or even particularly, does not focus on the pediatric, does not focus on the pediatric or young, a young sort of nephrology or renal population per se. There is equivalent. There is an equivalent of the RPSG social media platform, and where the social media platform, at least sort of in around the same time, in around the same time, although not a part of this particular research poster presentation, had also been founded, in around 2014. This research poster presentation does not focus on that particular social media platform, but does where this research poster presentation does highlight some aspects around young people and parents and guardians from the literature. So young people experience a range of emotions when living with ill health that can be barriers to effective communication and coping. Feelings of confusion, fear, and uncertainty. Works by Decker and team in 2007 had informed some specific or particular some particular and specific aspects of where there are aspects of uncertainty and barriers. It was works by Neville in 1998, who found that communicating information about illness as a form of support can reduce uncertainty and help people cope. Works by Brashers and Jacksons in 1999. 1999's work on in around communication identified the importance of understanding the management of uncertainty in a healthcare in health context, and where in some instances people want to reduce uncertainty because it is threatening, and at other times uncertainty allows people to have to remain optimistic. The period duration of transition from teenage years to adulthood in amongst the literature had been known to be particularly a challenging time for young people generally. Works by Thorne and team sort of in around 2004 identified the critically of communicating information effectively and appropriately to help people cope with illness, with sensitivity. A sense of sensitivity needed in the health community is needed in has been needed in is needed or has been needed in uh, in um, healthcare context, in the healthcare context, and forms and forms and forms helps form sort of a network. I can help form a network in which there can be can lead to information and support. At the same time, it's works by works by Goldsmith and Fitch in around 1997, give some examples of contradictions or dilemmas where for advice and support may be viewed by receiver as either helpful, a positive, being a positive experience, or sort of butting in, for example, as a negative one. Intriguingly, young people and parents and guardians with internet access also have more research knowledge, have more research knowledge about CKD, and there are also and that all and that about CKD, and are also less can be less at least where evidence where has been evidence amongst the literature are also less depressed compared to patients who or less anxious compared to patients who do not have or use online sort of modalities. Studies are required to understand whether internet use under supervision of healthcare professionals, for example, will improve outcomes, adherence, and coping and decision making in context of recipients or patients. For example, amongst those on forms of on forms of renal replacement therapies, according to works by Afsar in 2013. The research poster now goes into some aspects of discussion, and subsequently into aspects of conclusions. So, in discussion as part of this poster presentation, the aim of this work was to highlight the importance of raising awareness of CKD and providing broader perspective of how nephrologists can prospectively enhance practices in the care of young people and parents and guardians. The RPSG is now at the time of this research poster presentation, the RPSG had been running into its fifth year, with an increasing global sort of membership with young people and parents and with young people and parents and guardians and health professionals from various institutions using sort of parts, sort of specific parts or particular parts of the social media platform, and hence, as per mention, there had been an equivalent of the RPSG for the pediatric and young population that had been sort of initiated or sort of founded, if you like, from in around 2014. Although again, the RPSG at the time had members, had service users, service users from the pediatric and young population, not as specific members of the social media platform, but had young people and healthcare providers, for example, using particular or identifying particular aspects through the RPSG platform at the time that could or had been linked to sort of particular areas of clinical or medical practices, clinical or medical practices, or sort of where at least where information could be advantageous to aspects of healthcare to that sort of population. And it was in 2012 the RPSG and founders initiated sort of a blog page where researchers, investigators can identify some of the work that RPSG has been involved with. And in addition, the RPSG had allowed a platform had allowed a platform for researchers from organizations and institutions to collect some online to collect some online data by implementation of a secure link to surveys relating or regarding to renal disease and healthcare, and where under under particular aspects of a non patient identifier, that a patient or user identifiable information, where the where researchers uh, could uh, could could approach the RPSG to form sort of a sense of collaborative effort. Um, and the work also informs, or the research poster, this research poster and presentation also as informed that social media can help raise disease awareness, and providing primarily a Facebook example. The RPSG has positively influenced to has positively influenced and prompting a sense of support for those who suffer to develop aspects of self-care strategies, enhancing shared decision shared decision shared decision making, and empowering members to adapt sort of strong sort of coping strategies. And finally, around the conclusions of this research poster presentation, with regard to the claim. So with regard to the claim, and that where the initial parts of the research presentation, and where there was a claim, patients patients, parents, and guardians using the internet as a resource to gather information relating or regarding to chronic kidney disease, or CKD, and as a sort of effective sorry to where the using the internet and as a resource to gather information in regards to CKD, or regarding CKD, has been is or has been a sort of an effective has been sort of effective and effective in context of a learning as in context of a learning resource. The RPSG at the time had set a tone from a from a global sort of a global perspective, and a social and where social media is becoming, or had become, more broadly used as sort of a first port of call for information. Best practice, at the same time, best practice can only be achieved amongst pediatric nephrologists if they continue to learn, communicate with young people and parents and guardians more frequently. Ongoing learning can prepare clinicians in this high pacing specialist division of clinical medicine, or medicine, and other important subject entities, such as for example, psychology, dietetics, radiology, and the role in supporting young people with chronic kidney disease will remain sort of paramount, supporting the clinical care of young people with chronic kidney disease, chronic kidney disease, or CKD. And there are still some ongoing challenges to provide to provide sort of best practice for all with CKD, according to literature by Hotstetter and team in 2011, and ultimately there is an increasing need to raise CKD awareness, enhance coping strategies for young people, and highlight how using the internet and online forums and social media platforms, for example, can be resourceful. Professionals should at the same time have understanding of what resources are available to young people, parents, and guardians. That ends the outline of all the sort of the sort of the sort of sort of perspective or basis of this research post presentation from 2014, and where this work was put forward for the excellence in pediatrics in around 2014. The literature in this research poster presentation will be sort of on online, will be on social media linked with this particular audio podcast, and so listeners are welcome to sort of look into the literature, and are welcome to add any comments, or add any comments, and look and whilst referring to the literature. That draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast as part of a quantum edition. This audio podcast as part of a Vortux Gauntlet. This audio podcast as part of a Lobostic sequence. This audio podcast as part of a Storm Lobostics production.